Welcome to Pike County Update. I'm Dr. James Riley. I'm your host. I teach at the University of Pikeville and function as the Director of Communications for Pike County Government. It's my pleasure to have Judge Executive William M. Deskins with us today. Bill Deskins is the Judge Executive here in the county for the first year now of his term. Judge, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to start with a little history if I could. I know the Deskins family has been in politics for a long time. I'll start with your great-grandfather, Jackson Deskins. Why don't you tell us a little bit about him?
Well, he was county judge in 1882 through 85. And he started the old courthouse on Main Street here. And he spent so much money on it. He run for re-election. And the people said he spent too much money on that old building, and which was a new building, of course. And he run for re-election, and he got beat.
Well, 150 years later, the benefits of the courthouse are still serving the people of the county. So county politics hasn't changed too much, I guess, in that amount of time.
Not a whole lot.
Other members of your family, I know, was your grandfather or your father was in politics? Is that?
My dad won for judge 2 times, in 48 and I think in 52 and 48. And he lost one race by 200 votes. And he said the old courthouse, you know, they had the paper ballots. And he thought all the way that they counted him out in the courtroom, in the physical courtroom.
Okay, let's start with just a little personal information about yourself then, Judge. Why don't you tell us where you were raised and where you went to school here in Pike County?
Well, I'm a Johns Creeker. I was born and raised at the mouth of Meat House on Johns Creek. And I went to a one-room schoolhouse, a mile up Meat House and a mile back, uphill both ways.
All right, but you graduated from Pikeville High School, is that true?
That's true. We, in the middle 40s, we had no road down to Meta, down Johns Creek. If the creek got up, you couldn't get down through there. And they had a high school on Lower Johns Creek, which was 7 miles to Meta, no road. And from the old 119, 4 miles down was Johns Creek High School. And no way could we get down there. I guess the creek was too deep to get the bus up through there. But anyway, Mom rented an apartment on High Street, and I went to Pikeville High School and graduated in 1948.
Okay, what did you do after you graduated then, Bill?
Well, my dad was working as superintendent of the Pike County Highway Department, and I got a job there, and it was very good. I think I got $200 a month. So
in
later,
1948?
1940, no, it was, in the fall of 48. Then in 49, I got a job up at this side of Grundy. I worked for the United Mine Workers for about 5.5 years. Then they closed down. Then I moved into a job over at Abington, Virginia. It was the ore mine in yellow clay, and I got a job there. And when that job was over, they tested it out, and there wasn't enough there to be mineable. And the company, the superintendent asked me where I was going to do, and I said, well, I'm going to have to hunt a job. And he said, if you want a job, you can just come home to Baltimore with us, and you can have a job up there. And I did. And it was a very, very good job. And always,
well, that was a construction job, right?
Construction, major construction, airports, bridges, whatever. And I worked for them about 18 years. And my mother was the best teacher I had, and grandmother. My mother told me when I was in the 7th grade, what are you going to do when you grow up? I said, Mom, I don't really know. Whatever you do, you be the best at it. And my grandmother was even better. She said, you don't do anything until you check everything out and look at the whole picture. And that was a good thing, too, and that's what I've tried to do since.
Well, that's good advice, Judge. 18 years in construction out of Kentucky. What made you decide to come home?
Well, the job pay, the rate of pay was good. The building trade, I belonged to the AFL-CIO Operating Engineers, and the building trade was $4.20 an hour. And if you worked 10 hours, you got the last 2 hours at double time. And so it was a good job. But then in construction, when this job's over, the next one might be 2 states away. And we had to move. And my son David, that was in the circuit court clerk, we came home, he was in the 7th grade and had been in 14 different schools. And I just wanted to move. Well, then I was working at Rockville, Maryland, about 10, 12 miles from Washington, D.C. And they had an automatic transmission training center. And I decided I would be an automatic transmission repairman. So I worked 10 hours a day, and the school started at 7. I had time. We quit at 5:30 to go eat and get on out to where the training school was. And in 6 months, I was trained pretty good, and they gave you a test. All transmissions, they had you one on a bench that was run good. You had to tear it down and all the way apart and check it. And I did. I took it down, and I always, when I disassembled something, lay it in order, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was about 11 o'clock, 11:30, I guess. They said it's lunchtime, and all of us there was 34 of us in the training. And we went to breakfast or lunch and had that, come back, and they had took my transmission and just piled it up. An awfulest mess you ever seen. It took me about 2 hours longer to figure it out and put it back together. Then they had a machine to check it out. And I said, oh heck, I hope I got it right. And I did. They tested it and it worked perfect. So I did that.
Did you use that training when you came home then?
I did. I started a transmission repair shop. Well, in my work, in the wintertime, they would shut a job down on the road job, and work on the equipment,
Mm-hmm.
take it in and work it. That needed repairing and whatnot. And then in the spring, they would go back to work on it. And I told the superintendent, I said, I want to know how to overhaul that diesel engine and that final drive and that transmission and that. Well, he said, it's no trouble. Said and he said, most of all, the most important thing you have to do is be clean with your work. And it's always worked pretty good for me. I was only 27 and called a master mechanic.
Well, that's good. When did you decide to get into politics?
Well, I came back here in the 70s, and I had in 71, I got a job over between Freeburg, Kentucky, and Matewan, West Virginia, and my brother was working in the coal mines, sales, and he found some property over there, and it took me 3 months to decide to get into the mining business because it was pretty tough. So I decided that, I was making about what I could make with the business 5, 6 times of what I could get in mining. And so I did. I decided to do that, and that's how I got started a little bit successful in the mining business.
Were you in the mining business then when you decided to run for sheriff?
Yes, I was over in West Virginia there when my second term as sheriff, 82 through 85, and I had the world by the tail over there. I had 7,500 acres up Crawley Creek there at Chapmansville, West Virginia. 23,200 acres at Harts, West Virginia, and I got it for 5.25% surface mining and deep mining, 5 seams. And all the property over there that I had was there. And then I had 10,000 acres of coal land. Before the bridge you cross before you get to on 119, where the stores is over there on 119 at Logan on the new highway going through there.
Mm-hmm.
And in the head of that holler. It was about 10 miles long, and I had 10,000 acres there.
Well, you were a mine operator. What made you decide to run for sheriff?
Well, that was in 69, really. I really didn't have, I was working on the transmissions and that stuff, and I thought I'd get a little cleaner job, and I had some good crew members that could run the shop and the boat sales. And I decided to do that. And you could only serve one term as sheriff then, and then you're out of them. And I ran in 69. There was 5 of us running, and I came in 4th. And then I thought, well, maybe I ought to run again the next time. And I did run and won in 73. Took office in 74. And, you know, it was an interesting job. Bootlegging was rampant in Pike County then. And I sent to Frankfort and got the criteria belonging to the sheriff's office. And in there, well, you put your hand on the Bible and take the oath of office. And decided to run again in 73. And as I say, I won. I did win. And the other reason I sent to Frankfort and got the criteria pertaining to the sheriff's office. In there it says the sheriff shall wear a uniform. And I talked to some older time people then, and they said they'd never seen the sheriff wear a uniform. The deputies did. And I said, oh, heck, they'll think I'm a smart butt wearing that uniform. But if I went around a bootlegger, I want everybody to know who I was. So,
was there any conflict of interest being sheriff and running a coal mine at the same time?
Well, I had a good crew. In business, I'm a leader in my job that I was running. I'm not a maker. I mean, I'm a leader, and everything gets done good and works good. And I always had a good crew.
Well, when did you decide that you should run for judge executive?
Well, that was in 77. The county bought the sheriff 3 cars and to do the term, and no other money. And I had problems of keeping my men with working, and I decided to run, and I did, and run into always you run into things that you don't know about.
Right.
It just comes up real strong. Anyway, I enjoyed being sheriff, helping the people and doing things that I ought to be. And like I say, I belong to the Sheriff's Association, and it was pretty good there with the people that we had across the state.
That was about the time they started the sheriff's ranch, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And I helped start the kids' game where they go down to
Sheriff's Island?
Sheriff's Island, yeah.
I believe that's what it's called, yeah.
Yeah, and then you got State Police Island down there. And I was very instrumental in getting that started. And I was always happy to do things,
Right.
get things done right. Now, I ran the first time now when the judge and the county wouldn't buy me any equipment. I decided then to run for the judge.
Oh, when you were sheriff and you didn't have enough money, you decided to run for judge executive.
Right.
Okay.
And so I ran, and Wayne beat me a little bit. And so I was still working in the mines. I'd go work that and see that everything was lined out and doing good.
You are the judge executive now.
Yes.
And you decided to run for some reason, and a man that's only slightly older than me, you've got a pretty good job on your hands here.
Oh, I do.
It must have taken some decision making to decide to work instead of relax.
Well, I've got a nice place down on North Lake, and I'd planned to go fishing and retire. And some of my political friends said, "You've got to run and get that fella out of there." And after about 2.5 months, I went to a couple of friends of mine in the county and asked them about what shape the county was in. And the treasurer said, "We don't have any money. It's tough." And then I decided that I'd work for the county. And I don't blame my friends that wanted me to run. I made my own decision to run this time. for the people and the county.
Has it, the financial situation of the county, was it worse than you thought it was?
Yes.
Was it?
I couldn't believe it. The legislators had cut the coal severance tax out of Pike County only.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what am I going to do now? I'd go home at night in January and February and March trying to think of a way to get the county in better shape. And I couldn't come up with any way. So then we had to raise the county on occupational tax 1 penny. And we did, and it was pretty tough game.
Well, I know the occupational tax has helped, but the coal severance money hasn't returned,
No.
and the amount of coal severance money has been reduced since coal mining.
It's probably
has taken
reduced
such a hit.
60 or 65%.
Has it?
Or more. And I love Pike County. I was born and raised here, and I just wanted to do what was right. But then, in getting back to running for sheriff or judge, I made my own decision to not to. My friends said you got to run, and saw the shape the county was in, and I decided to run. And believe me, it's in bad shape yet. I don't know that the 1% tax will make everything work out right. We may have to do something else.
Right. Well, there's a lot of talk about solutions. I mean, we don't have the coal industry that we once had. I know there's a lot of talk about tourism. Recently, a lot of talk about the trail system and the possibility of that helping with the economy in the area. Do you see tourism as being a solution or maybe help to the situation?
It's a big help to the situation. And the problem we have with this ATV trails is we started that in '03 and '06, worked on it, had it going pretty good. But the people that owned the property, we had trouble getting them to agree to let us have the trails across their property. And the legislature, I think, needs to make a solution where the landowners are protected from any cause and have insurance, you know what I mean, for whatever.
Right.
And we're still working on it. And I'd love to see the ATV trails to go because it's a lot of fun.
Right.
And it'll bring in people in to stay in motels and food and restaurants and whatnot.
Right. And it's popular in West Virginia, and I think
yes.
profitable as well, isn't it?
It is. So it's been a tough job, but I don't mind being tough. I've worked hard all my life, and I've had some other things over there in West Virginia.
Well, let me ask you, I know that there's a situation with the road over at Fish Trap. Let's talk about that situation just a little bit, because I know when you first took office it was a problem and you've been trying to deal with it. Why don't we talk about that for just a minute? Tell us the situation and what's being done.
Right now there's nothing we can do. We don't have the money. The contract was let under the other administration, and they spent $2 million trying to go up there and look at it now. I could take a dozer and a drill and a truck and do what they did for $2 million. I could do for $350,000. Now think about that.
Right. How many homes set up there?
I think there's 12 homes up in there.
12?
And they've been blocked since the dam was built in '64, I believe. And I've been up there and looked at it. It's extremely dangerous up there where there's a slide coming in about where the road goes up over the hill. Well, see, now I was told this back in late '60s that the Corps of Engineers, wouldn't let the state highway was going to build a road, and they wanted the slope made different, and the state said no, they wouldn't want to do that. It would be too much, and the engineers has been a big fault of the reason the road has never been done. And instead of building the road, they went up Upper Pompey, up to the top of the hill, come down the ridge line, and come down Raccoon Creek, and then coming on into Pikeville, which is probably more than an hour travel.
Right.
Whereas if we had a road around Fish Trap Dam up there, we could be here from there in 20 minutes or 15 maybe if you was in a hurry.
Is there any help coming from the legislature maybe to correct that situation?
Not yet. we don't have any help from anybody. We just don't have any money to do it with.
Right.
And the Corps of Engineers wants us to go up there and do this. We got a bunch of pictures of what they took pictures of and done. But it's unreal to spend $2 million, and I think out of that $2 million, 147 was engineering work done on about a mile of road.
Right.
And I think the Corps of Engineers was the biggest problem with that. They wanted this done. Don't do that, do this, so they say.
Well, I know one of your focuses has been on making sure that county government functions, that
Yes.
the money's not wasted, that the money goes where it should go. Have you been successful in that regard? Is your staff helping you there, your executive staff?
Yes, I've got the best staff I've ever had in any of my business. And we are trying our best to, get things done. And it seems like it seems like whatever we try, it's not going to work without money.
Right.
So we've got one lady that helps us. That's Lisa, and she is a big help with where the money is available and different places where you can get money from the state and the federal.
Mm-hmm.
And we just haven't had much luck getting the money because they're short too.
Right. I want to move to a more positive note, Judge. You're the judge executive of a county with 2 state championship football teams in it. I thought you might want to say something about that.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I went to Pikeville High School and Belfry. Hey, great. And I'm going to have a proclamation next fiscal court meeting for both teams. I got to do it because I love football.
Bring both teams into the courthouse and
Yes.
celebrate a little bit.
Celebrate a little.
Well, that should be celebrated.
Yeah, it should.
Judge, we really appreciate you taking the time out to come down and talk to us. I have one last question for you. 2018's right around the corner. What's your plans there? You going to run for judge executive again, or are you going fishing?
No, I know. I'm very realistic. I'm going to retire, like I was handed to do in last year.
Well, I remember you saying when you ran that you wanted one term and you wanted to help the younger generation prepare to run this county.
Yes, and I did say that, and I mean that. I've been a pretty good businessman. Running a county is a business. It ain't something political, and come up with things that don't amount to anything.
Right.
What it has to be is positive, and that's the way I try to work. So, no, I won't run anymore. I'm only 85, young fella.
Well, we appreciate you taking time out to come join us, Judge, and I'm sure everyone's looking forward to hearing what you have to say. I'm Dr. James Riley, and this has been Pike County Update, and we appreciate you guys joining us.